What's up, you guys? We got a special video today, joined by Connor right here, who actually, it's really crazy. We both go to the same gym, and he came up to me the other day and he was like, hey, like, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but he was like, hey man, like, is your name Alex? And I was just like, yeah. And at first, because I thought that maybe I recognized you from somewhere, that we had we recognized each other, but maybe from being out. And he was like, no, I watch your YouTube. So anyways, I wanted to bring him on today so that he can share some really interesting success stories that he actually shared with me the other day, and really give you guys basically a perspective into how he was able to achieve success using a lot of the techniques that we talk about on the channel, and basically break down his own experience with them and what he thinks has worked and what hasn't worked, and kind of give us a rundown of that. So we got him and Lucifer here, and why don't you start, I guess, by letting us know, just giving us a real quick synopsis of the situation and what exactly you kind of did to get your ex back.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I stumbled upon manifestation things, probably around 3 years ago. At the time, before I found out about any of this, I was having a difficult time with my girlfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was searching for ways to, not only better myself, but sort of, what do I need to do in order to get her back, really? And so I stumbled into, like just different YouTube videos from dating coaches and things like that.
Right.
And I really wasn't finding that it resonated with me. I thought that a lot of it was negative. You just need to do no contact. You just need to do this, and then you'll sort of like get them back at some point. And for me, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't fulfilling enough. I didn't feel like it was actually helping me in any way.
Yeah.
Portions of no contact helped me for sure, because I just feel like I needed to find a state of stability within myself.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely true within manifesting as well. Like finding inner peace before. I mean, for me, that was true for me. I needed to just sort of like calm down before
Yeah, for me as well.
Jumping into
Yeah.
And then I just started to like go into the Reddit communities and sort of go to I went to like the X no contact forums, and then I went on to like the breakup forums, and then I stumbled upon like Neville Goddard, and I was like, that's a really unique name. I'm gonna click this. I'm just gonna kind of browse through and see what it's all about. And then I found out like this is somebody who was like really into manifesting, and sort of like there was just different techniques and things like that in order to like. The first thing I stumbled upon, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah. Sort of my words are jumbled, but money. I think a lot of like the first thing I stumbled upon was like making more money. And so I read posts on that. I'm like, this is really interesting. Like what are people like manifesting,
Right.
And then I like cars and just little things. And then I stumbled on like the ladder technique.
Yeah.
And then I got really interested in this one person on that forum specifically started to break down how to do the ladder technique. Have you heard of the ladder?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And so I tried that for a couple nights, where you're visually thinking you're reaching up with your right hand, then you're reaching up with your left hand, and then your left foot, right foot, like you're climbing a ladder until you fall asleep. I think we all know that as SATs.
Yes, exactly. Stay akin to sleep.
Precisely. And so that was sort of my introduction into manifesting.
Yeah.
And then I started, after doing the ladder technique, seeing all these ladders and stuff like this. And so I was like actually freaked out. I was
you're like, yo, this is legit, I guess.
Yeah.
This is actually working. So
yeah, this is actually working.
That's how it starts for a lot of people. It's just like really simple, trivial things. And I think the reason that is because our brain or our mind, we don't have resistance to a ladder. We don't care about that. Or we don't care about that car that, like, maybe we do. Maybe we like a certain car. But you don't care about it enough that it's like causing inner resistance.
Right.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So anyways, yeah. So that was your kind of segue in. And then, yeah, you mentioned, so how did you then I guess did you find the SP stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, I just wanted to prove to myself that manifestation was real and I could actually do it. And that gave me enough belief within myself that, okay, maybe I could do something else now.
Yeah.
And mind you, I was in in pain.
Right.
I was in pain. I really missed my ex. I didn't even want to call her my ex. Even thinking about her name was difficult. So that was a hurdle for me. Like, I had to actually like get over the hurdle. I know it sounds ridiculous probably to some people, but like I couldn't even like say her name in my head. Like, it was that painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you described the situation to me before. It was almost like she kind of bailed in a sense. I don't know if that's the right word, but you guys separated and there wasn't any closure there.
No closure.
And so I can imagine, yeah, that's like can be an extremely painful situation. At least from a guy's perspective, I know like if I don't have any understanding of what happened, what went wrong, it's just very, very disconcerting. But anyways, so with that being said, I guess just after you felt all these painful emotions regarding the situation with your ex, like I guess just what then transpired. What were you able to do? How were you able to get yourself into an emotional place and then act from there?
Okay. Yeah, I got fed up, and I think for me it was like this piece of I need to do techniques. If this is real, I'm gonna give it my best effort. I'm gonna give it my fullest shot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do everything I can, and I'm gonna commit 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And if after 6 months it's not here, I'm gonna let go.
Right.
But I got over the emotional piece, and I was just wanting that for myself so bad, and I gave myself. I surrendered to it. I didn't want to have any more like this resistance within myself. So what I did was I did state akin to sleep every single night. My imaginary act was, I had a couple different ones. She was right next to me in bed. I would kiss her before she'd go to sleep, and we would just go to bed. I love you, good night. Or I would prepare like her side of the bed for her. I know that sounds insane to some people, but like I would just like that was my process. And then I would do scripting too. I'm so happy this, I'm not gonna say her name in this video, but I am so happy SP is with me.
Right.
Or I'm so thankful we got married. I'm so thankful we have children together. I am so thankful she's back in my life. I'm so thankful her parents want me to be back in her life. I'm so thankful we have an amazing family together.
I love that. That's so all-encompassing too, like talking about her family as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like the, imagining like preparing her side of the bed for her. That's not really that crazy, at least as far as what I've understood. Sometimes setting the dinner, like people will use like setting the dinner table for another person, like setting, like really feeling it, because it brings you into the state of that is your reality. When your actions are aligned with that being your new reality, those things can be very, very helpful, as odd as they might seem to somebody who's not well versed in manifesting, let's say.
Yeah.
But
totally.
Yeah.
And so I would do that for, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 months. And I remember this point in time where I started to really exhaust myself. And there was a point in time where after I sort of like reached that point, I sort of let go a little bit, and I would still do these things, but I would still do the techniques, but I would do them when I felt like in the morning and at night. But during the day, like I just wanted to like focus on myself, and like I like to drive, like we talked about, so like drive my car, go to work, just kind of like do things for me,
for sure,
and sort of let go.
Yeah.
And with the thought that like, it was all honestly like, and when mornings and nights came, like for me it was a peaceful thought. Like I honestly got to a point where like my imaginary acts became peaceful for me.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful she's in my life. I'm so thankful we're back together. Like and I felt it real too. Like I felt those things real, and
Yeah, absolutely.
you know,
That does, in my experience, and as you go into all of this, like you realize that state of relaxation and almost relief is the byproduct of that state, of that feeling that the wish is fulfilled.
right.
And so when you enter into that state of physical relaxation and a sense of relief, and you're like, I'm safe in this way that I feel, that can be a very, very good indicator that you are now, living from the end, or you feel as if that is true for you. Because regardless of the external circumstances, you feeling that inner peace inside is generating, like, we're like these electromagnetic fields, if you want to get like Joe Dispenza on it, or scientific about it, and it's like now we're emanating that new frequency.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
And I like that too, because feeling it real is the secret. Like I think you need to feel it as real.
Absolutely.
And you can for me, that's the truth. I know like everybody has their own way of doing things, but for me, it actually at first was robotic sort of affirmations.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people it has to start that way.
Yeah, and that's why it was very difficult at first, but then it turned into like, wait a second, like this feels good and this feels real, and anyways, where was I want to like finish the story.
Yeah, so I mean, those were the techniques that you were mentioning that you were doing. At what point in time were you imagining the scene that you told me about? The scene where you're together in the car.
Okay, yeah. So that was a later, that sort of,
later.
That happened, yeah, that like right around that 3-month mark, I got really serious, and I was like, all right, like I want something, I'm going straight to the end, right? I don't want any like, she's gonna text me or she's gonna call me, like I'm going straight to the end of where I want to be, and for me it was, I'm in the car with her, and I look over to my left, and she's pregnant with my child. We're together, and I'm just telling her that, and she's telling me that we're so happy we're back together, and we're just so thankful that we're here, and that feeling of like unity.
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and mentioning like, even like having your hand on her, or like on, like that is so I love it because it's so all encompassing. And Neville has that classic example of the wedding band, like feeling the wedding band on your finger. But
I did that too.
Yeah, that's cool too. I mean, it's just, I love it because sometimes people can get it sometimes can be hard for people to imagine one scene that can be replayed over and over again in the mind that implies the fulfillment of all these other things.
Right.
And so I think that you chose and you created a scene that was like very, very powerful as far as emitting all those emotions. I know that you mentioned that you want to have a family, like straight up. You want to have this beautiful relationship with this person. And so encompassing all of that within that scene is so powerful. So I really, really like that scene that you have there. And then so I guess like sequentially then, I guess what kind of transpired, and you said this was around the 3-month period?
Yeah, so that was around the 3-month, well, yeah, I want to say that specific imaginary act, I want to say started around the 3-month period, and I did it for about 2 months. And then, all this time passes, I want to say maybe 5 or 6 weeks, and I find myself...
You did that scene for like a couple months?
Probably a couple months.
Yeah.
Probably, honestly, under 2 months, I would say. And I found myself and we talk with some backtracking here. We sometimes in this community we talk about what's it called? Like it's
Bridge of Incidents.
Not a bridge of incidents, but I love that. I think that's great to talk about as well. But you're like I'm looking for the words right now, and I'm not. It's not for the video because I'm looking.
I guess what is the?
You're basically like moved to do something.
Oh, like an intuition or an impulse or a.
I felt like I didn't want to text her for the longest time, but I felt like I needed to reach out to her.
Yeah.
After 5 months, after literally like 4 months actually.
Yeah, like
I was moved to do that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And we'll find the terminology.
The term as people use it, but yeah.
I sent her a text. I just said, I love you and I miss you. And I was in the doctor's office at the time, and she immediately like texted me. Immediately texted me.
Yeah.
And I forgot what she said. I think it was something along the lines like, I miss you too. Like, how have you been? Got done with my doctor's appointment and went outside and like we talked on the phone. And I just basically told her like how I felt. And I was like, I just, you know, I miss you and I love you and I've only ever wanted to be together. And is there a chance, like, where are you? You know, like, where are you at mentally? And
Right.
she was in the same place
Yeah.
that she was 4 months prior. And that killed me, hearing that.
That's what she said. She's
Yeah.
in the same place. Yeah.
So another month goes by. I don't hear a word from her because I told her I'm in a place where, you know, I don't really want to talk if like we're not going to be working on things and we're not going to be back together. I continued that affirmation, or I'm sorry, I continued that the sats
Mhm.
with her in the car, with
Mhm.
her being pregnant, with my hand on her belly. Like,
Mhm.
we're in the end. I didn't allow myself to be moved negatively by what she was saying.
Right.
I didn't allow myself, and I want to make that very clear. Like, no emotion, nothing. Like, I just wouldn't
Yeah.
allow that to be true.
Yeah, maybe you held on to the fact that like, look, she instantly texted me. It's like you choose where you put your focus on
Mhm.
without even the words that she's saying, like, okay, whatever, but she responded immediately. And what did you say? She said something along the lines of she missed you too or something.
Right.
So it's like,
Right.
hold on to that feeling and reject anything counter to what the intention is, you know?
Dude, that's huge. That for me was huge because
Yeah.
like I can get so caught up in the minutia of like, oh, this negative thing happened and like I'm just
Right.
gonna hyper focus on it. Like, I don't want like I hope people can stop themselves from doing that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's really, if you just focus on the prize, that's what's gonna come.
Yeah, and that can be the hardest thing because yeah, our thoughts like will just, you know, some people call it the monkey mind, but there's these negative thoughts and you don't have to identify with them. You can choose to reject them. You can choose to dismiss them, and you can choose what you focus on in a moment to moment basis. And so yeah, exactly. Very, very good point there. So anyways, so you were saying now, so after this next time period passes, after the text exchange and this, what happens then at that point?
Another month goes by and her father texts me, and her father goes, hey man, you have like a box of stuff here at the house. Was just wondering if you wanted to pick it up. And I go, no, I'm okay. You guys can go ahead and toss it out. Really appreciate you reaching out though, and hope you're doing well. Another couple of days goes by. He reaches out again about the same thing, and hey, you got some like nice pair of sunglasses in here, and I would hate to throw it away. Are you sure you really don't want it? I was like, yeah, I appreciate it, but yeah, you guys can you can throw it away.
Yeah.
Thanks for double checking. Like 3 days goes by, maybe not even 3 days. She texts me, and she's like, hey, can we talk? Like, I have your stuff, and I text her. I said, I really just don't want this. If you're not willing to like work on this, I think it's best for you to just throw it out. But thanks for reaching out, you know. And that was my text at the time to her, and she was just, can I come over? Can I just come over?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Like, yeah. Like, obviously, like I'm freaking out. You know what I mean? Like I want her to come over. Like, I want to see her. I want.
Yeah,
to
but you want her to come over on her own accord,
right?
And so yeah.
And so, but I knew this box thing was for her. I knew her father was reaching out to me because
Right.
of her.
Yeah, it was like reading between the lines. Yeah.
100%. Like,
sure.
It was her the whole time, and she just wanted to come over, and she wanted to. Anyways, yeah. So, and I think it's important for me to mention too. I had other sats as well of her like showing up to my house.
Yeah, right.
And
I remember that.
We had a chance to talk about that too, and she did. She showed up. She showed up with the box.
Yeah, and you mentioned, so you had another visualization. Yeah, exactly. That she was showing up to your house, and was it something to do with like a chat, like sitting outside and talking, or I don't remember the exact visualization, but you said it came about in exactly the way that you imagined it, right?
Yeah. Well, so I imagined her, it wasn't exactly, but like she showed up at the garage instead of my front door.
Okay.
My imaginary thing was like, my sats was her
Front
showing
door.
up at front door.
Right.
Instead it was the other, I'll
Garage.
take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so she showed up and we had a talk, and it was extremely, this girl, you know, was the love of my life, and like just seeing her, I knew every feeling that I had felt before, I still felt the same way about her. And seeing her was just brought up a lot of emotion, and we talked in the grass for probably 2 hours, and then we got in her car, and I like my sats, and obviously she wasn't pregnant at that point, but we talked for probably 3 hours. So 2 hours in the grass, got in the car, drove to the park, and then I was in her passenger seat, looked over,
Yeah,
and
just
it's her.
just like the scene.
And I'm telling her I love her, and I want to be together, you know. And it's just wild how like everything played out the way my sats went down, you know.
Absolutely.
Maybe some little fine details weren't precise, but
it's all about the result. And like the minutia of the details, like for the most part it did happen. And I remember you told me something too about like you imagine you talking in the grass. Was that true too? I mean, yeah, so like the whole thing, and then the of course that is going to have to happen first before you're married, and on the way to that whole process you're going to be like the fact that you had that exact same thing of being in the passenger seat. I mean, that cinches the deal to me that this was created. This was
100%.
So anyways, awesome story. And so then it went well, and then you guys were together at that point.
Yep.
So yeah, like very, very, very cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that as far as like details or other things that of note as far as how this all transpired?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think for me it was a lot of determination, and I didn't let negative conversations around me, or hey, you should manifest someone new, or hey, you should think about dating somebody else, or whatever. I didn't let that cloud what my prize was, what my goal was.
Right.
I wanted to be with her, and I made my mind up that I wanted to be with her. And I was determined to make it happen. And I think determination here is in letting everything else go, and not listening to anybody else, and not like putting any negative, you know.
Yeah, great. And I think that maybe the term we might have been looking for was inspired action. That's it.
Inspired action.
Yeah, inspired action. And I want to just leave this off with that, because in this community, we're always talking about the inner world, and the outer world is a reflection of the inner world, but we have to be aware when we get those nudges of intuition to take that inspired action, because that is actually what is going to fill the gap. Like if you didn't text her right then, or if you didn't act on your intuitive nudges to do these certain things, it might not have came about. And so it's like doing that, and even down to the point where you feel the way that you text her that like look, if you don't want to do this, just whatever that is, that intuitive thing, it's like getting out of your own way, because at that point you could have also been like, yeah, come over or whatever. And it's just like you gotta sometimes trust your gut and just allow the situation to pan out in the best way. And that can it can happen in so many different ways, but I just wanted to touch on that because the action is still a part of the manifestation. Like you still need to take some actions on the way in order for it to receive it. So.
And the last thing I want to mention on inspired action too, because I think sometimes a lot of people look for it. I think it just happens. I didn't even realize, like I felt an urge, a deep, and I feel like it can honestly be confused with like inspired action is very random, and it's very like it happens when you're not really emotionally like tied up in it.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why it's so important to get that inner stability,
right?
And not be so tied up with it, because if you are just constantly focusing, like you mentioned, there was a certain point in there where Now you're just going about your day to day. Now you're just doing you and doing what makes you feel good and what makes you, and achieving on your path, right? And so, but at night, you still do the practice. You still keep it up in the mornings, and you feel that inner sense of relief. And that is what is able to you, what enables you to do it in an objective and somewhat detached manner, which is really, really imperative to do. If you're in this emotional frenzy about whatever it is that you're trying to do, you're putting too much importance on it, and you are energetically causing a resistance there because of that. And I mention this all the time, but this Vadim Zeland talks about this in his book Transurfing, and it really is true in my personal experience, that the more that you're putting something on a pedestal or removed from you, the harder it is. And if you step out of that and get out of your own way and are able to then just like be in more of a state of flow about it, and that's when you'll receive those and be able to act on them, the inspired action, like in a positive manner.
I love that.
Yeah, but anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sharing the story, and we're gonna do a couple more videos with Connor here because we have a couple more success stories for you guys. And let us know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys have any experience that kind of reflects his? Have you guys had imaginal scenes that have almost panned out exactly the way that you've imagined them? And what is your opinion on inspired action as well? Because I think that's something that's very important that can sometimes be a little bit overlooked in this community, at least. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Drop me a like, drop me a comment, hit the subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.